What is cracking, everybody? It's been a long time since Jesse's been on the channel. I've been trying my damnedest for probably the whole football season, but he's finally decided to grace us with his presence, and I am super appreciative. Got a lot of questions I want to ask him about this off season, and maybe touch on a little bit from the past season because we haven't really. I don't think we yucked it up through the whole season, pretty much. So we never gave each
It's
other.
been a while.
Yeah,
I thought we did maybe early in the season we were able to get together, but it's
yeah.
definitely been a while, Aaron. Definitely.
Like the whole Purdy and the great
Yeah.
ride and all how it ended and everything. I haven't. I mean, like I watch you and I try to jump in as many streams as possible, but like to actually ask you some questions, I haven't done that in a while. So I appreciate you coming through, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a while. I always enjoyed chopping it up with you, and now the season's over. Maybe we can get some more streams in together. I got to tell you, I know this has to have been put together by Roscoe because I know his work and it looks incredible. I can always tell when Roscoe puts something together. So shout out to my guy,
Shout out to
Roscoe.
Roscoe. Yeah.
Best in the business. He is absolutely incredible. So I had to give him some love because I knew I was like that intro and that overlay. That's Roscoe's work right there. I can tell.
Definitely. Well, it was you gave me the original, like the intro and stuff, and then I'm like, I need something going into kind of the off season and starting into next season.
Good choice.
And I'm like,
listen, here's the thing, Aaron. A lot of people come to me and it's like, I know enough to be dangerous, but that's not my expertise. Like I can do it, right? But like Roscoe, this is what he does.
Yes.
All the time that I put into YouTube, he puts into graphic design and edit work and all that. So all the things that I can do, he can do it on steroids. Yeah. And he's definitely my guy. So, you know, I know enough to be dangerous. I can make them. I can do my own thumbnails and intros, but it's not going to be like at that level. So if you're going to pay someone, like Roscoe's definitely the man, no doubt about it.
Told him, I said, I'm going to be keeping you busy, homie. So don't worry. Before we get talking Niners, I wanted to ask you about your channel and your second channel for people that a lot of people that jump in our streams are pretty much, they know us both. But for anybody who might see this either now or on replay, give people kind of a people of like what's what about Jesse Naylor, Last Second Sports, and Last Second Sports 2.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So Last Second Sports, that's dedicated to the San Francisco 49ers. And you're going to see mostly live shows over there, much like what you're seeing with Aaron and I here. It's going to be live shows. Every once in a while, I'll throw out a video, like I'll have a take or an idea. And so I'll throw out a video, just a random thought instead of going live. But for the most part, you're going to see live shows, call-ins, that type of stuff. And then I started the second channel, which is all NFL, because I'm a football guy. I love football. It's not just San Francisco. It's, you know, I love football. And so for me, I needed that outlet, but I didn't want to intermingle. I didn't want to bring in all NFL content to a crowd that was solely looking for 49ers content. And then for those new people that are subscribing, I don't want them to be like, okay, well, it's all football content, but every time you go live, you're talking about the Niners. So it made sense to start a second channel. And so that one's a little bit different. It's going to be all shorter form content, 10 minutes or less, usually all pre-recorded. A lot of editing goes into those videos. So just two very different vibes, but allows me to get my fix and talk about a little bit of everything. So definitely check it out.
I've been paying attention, and I've been paying attention to the fact that you got a new camera. Asking you,
we talked behind the scenes about
DMs,
it.
like, okay, what do you got? Because I got to make a changeover eventually. Yeah, we've been rocking the Logitech Brios, both of us, but I want to up my. Like, I finally came down in the basement and decided to just put a bunch of crap behind me.
It looks phenomenal, by the way. I went right when you changed. I have
this pillar here that holds up my basement.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of getting, see that gap right there? You know those championship belts?
Yeah.
Wrestling belts. I want to get one with, like, I might have somebody make me something with my channel that fills out the whole little circular part in the middle and have like a 49er First Takes like wrestling belt behind me.
Oh,
you know, kind of crowning myself as like a champion, even though, you know, whatever.
I love it. But no, dude, listen, the neon stuff behind you, the on air, you get an actual like nice camera, not a webcam, all that stuff's gonna pop like crazy. So I love, dude, you've got a hell of a background.
I don't know if you see the spinning helmet.
Yeah. Oh, I see it. I definitely see it.
Yeah, I got my Joe Montana sign, even though Joe Montana makes me angry a lot.
Isn't that funny? It's funny. You got a signed Joe Montana helmet right here, and he pisses me off all the time.
Always. Me and my nephew were talking about that. But we were arguing about LeBron and Jordan and who's better. Me and my nephew were in like a 2-hour argument the other day. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then in the process, we're like, man, what happened to
Speaking
Joe
of goats,
Montana?
yeah.
I love my nephew to death, but we definitely do not agree on that topic and never will. It's just
Yeah. Well,
it's a generational thing, man. But
it is. It definitely is.
He's like, who's this guy? Who's this guy? I'm like, what do you mean, who's this guy? He didn't see him play. Same thing with like, I haven't really paid attention to basketball in probably the last 15, 18 years. So
right.
I know who the best players are, but I don't know, tit for tat. But let's talk some Niners. This coming the 22nd of this month is a pretty big date.
Yeah.
A lot of questions are going to be answered. I'm cautiously optimistic because of the way Kyle, almost in a demonstrative kind of pissy way, was about, we don't need to make a move for another quarterback. We got Trey coming. We got Trey and we got Brock Purdy coming, and he'll be fine and ready to go. They seem really sure of it, but there is no concrete answer on that. So are you of the mindset that the offseason kind of really begins once we get the fallout, good or bad, with the Brock Purdy post-op?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, they have to know what's going on with that. That's going to structure how they're going to attack the quarterback position. You know what I mean? So for me, it's like, if you don't figure that portion of it out, then what's the direction? Because money spent is biggest spent at the quarterback position. And if Brock Purdy's out for the year, now you got to go spend anywhere from like $3 to $8 million to go get a serviceable backup. And so what does that look like? Who's that guy? What are you going to do there? And it all comes down to that surgery. And, the other thing too, it's like they keep throwing out this 6-month timeline, and people get so mad when I brought it up. But when Ian Rappaport reported it, he's like, 6 months recovery, but he'll be ready for training camp. And I'm like, the math isn't math in here. Training camp starts in 5 months. You said 6-month recovery. That's right before. I mean, you're basically into preseason games by then. So is it 5 months or is it 6 months? And everybody's like, oh, you're trying to drum things up. I'm like, no, I'm actually just doing math. And 6 months isn't the end of July. It's the end of August. And how does that impact things? So we'll see. Let's hope that it's the 6-month variety. He is able to come back, because regardless of whether Purdy's the starter or the backup, I don't want to go spend money and assets to bring in somebody else when this roster has other needs. So for me, I just hope that Purdy's ready to go as soon as possible. They'll figure out starter, backup, whatever. That's up to them to decide. But it would be nice to know that you got two guys that you can rely on, so you don't have to spend another $5 to $8 million on somebody else outside of the organization, because Purdy's not going to be ready to go this year.
I was talking to you off screen about finally getting my surgery ready to go, right? Like, it's finally happening, and there's a post-op and I can breathe. I will be the same way once we find out what's going on with Purdy. I have the same mental, like, I go from one thing to worry. I'm a worrier. I'm definitely a pessimistic person. I don't know if it's the New Yorker in me, but I always have some sort of mental calamity going on in my head that I'm worried about. First, it was my own medical issues, and now it's Purdy. Because I without going into too much about how the season ended or how everything, kind of turned out, there was a part of me, and I know a lot of Niners fans, including Beto in the chat from Niners Sickness Podcast, who were like super comfortable when Purdy was at quarterback. Like, you always had that worry with Jimmy that he's going to throw a game away, or the moment would be too big for him. And I never got that with Brock Purdy. And as much as I want Trey to develop and be the long-term answer, I also want the Niners to win. And if that means this half-size, little 7th round, weak arm quarterback from, nobody really knows about ends up being the guy, I really don't care. Because to me, it's about the helmet and what's on the side of it.
For sure.
I was so heartbroken how everything, like I said, transpired and ended. I felt like the Niners got shortchanged or what's the word I'm looking for? They got I don't know. It just the season didn't end the right way for as good as we played and how good of a team we had. It was just such an anticlimactic way to end the season. So
it was just an incomplete. Like if you were given a grade, you can't give it an A through an F. You would just say it's incomplete. You didn't finish the project. I don't know how I'm going to grade this. You were supposed to do a whole project. I got 5%. So no grade, incomplete. That's the way that I felt.
Yeah, we understood the assignment like the song says, but we just didn't complete the assignment.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's told my brother, I was like a couple months ago, I was like, man, if Purdy wins the Super Bowl for us, I'm buying a quarterback jersey. I never buy quarterback jerseys. I have a Kaepernick jersey in my closet that I can't give away. It's like a $300 authentic. And let's just say I don't know what to do with it. I don't want to throw it out or do anything mean to it because then people will think other things about me. So it's just going to stay there, possibly collect some mothballs or moths eventually, and maybe it'll eat it or something. But yeah, I was like, man, I'm going to get a Purdy jersey. And my brother's like, you're not. That's so stupid. I'm like, if he wins this Super Bowl, I don't care if it's a one and done situation, man. I'm getting a Purdy jersey. And unfortunately, it didn't happen. So
that's the way I am with signatures. I love collecting signatures. And so the last quarterback signature I have of the 49ers is Kaepernick. So much like your jersey, I've got a Kaepernick signature right over here. And I didn't get a Jimmy Garoppolo jersey. A signature. I'm glad I waited. Haven't done it with Lance. I almost did. I was this close. Haven't done it with Purdy. And it's just like, I got to wait. Like, I got to see somebody make that second contract and feel extra comfortable before I go get that signature.
Yeah, everybody that I have as a jersey has a second contract or has a second contract coming. I think the only one that I'm not sure on that I got a jersey of is Hufanga. I hope I'm right.
Oh, yeah. I feel good about that one.
Such a great first half of the season. And then, like, right when I got the jersey, he was struggling. I'm like, way to go, Aaron. You know,
so you're the one to blame. Okay,
yeah, I'm
now
the one
we
to blame.
know. Now,
you want to hear another story about blaming that nobody else knows that some of the guys in the NWO's panel know. So in 1994, 95, the year the Niners won Super Bowl, I was really hot that Montana got traded to Kansas City, right?
Okay.
I owned a Kansas City sweatshirt.
Oh, okay. All right.
And there is a photograph of me, all 110 pounds of me, looking off to the side. The camera's making my eyes look all funny because of now how pictures were developed back then.
Yeah.
And my nephew saw that. He's like, so that's why we lost. You traitor. I'm like, man, I was a Montana dude.
Yeah.
I think from the 94 season on is when I became strictly like my allegiance to the Niners was like unquestioned. But up until that point, I was such a Montana mark, you know, as they say in wrestling, someone who believes it's real, that I was like, you know what, I'm going to buy a freaking Kansas City sweatshirt. And it was a nice sweatshirt too. It was like all, like the lettering was all sewn and stitched, high quality.
Yeah. You busted it out this last Sunday is what I heard. Yeah.
No, I don't even know where that is. That's probably it, like some, you know, somebody's probably using it for like a rag to clean their car with now. You know, it's been gone for so many years, but yeah, I had that. I never told you about it though.
Do you see jersey Beto bought? Look at that.
He bought a Javon Kinlaw.
Yeah.
The 49ers throwbacks got one though, so I'm cool. He has a Falfunga.
Okay, all right. We'll see. Good. That's
my brother's like, why don't you buy the McCaffrey? I'm like, because I don't know if he's gonna switch his number. I don't know if he's going to switch. If he switches this offseason and I have a 23 and then he goes to 22, I'm going to have a useless 23 jersey. So
that's true. That's a very good point.
McCaffrey and what he picks and stuff, you know, and then if IU gets extended, I might get an IU jersey. I'm so overweight right now that I feel
like Fred Warner's like the way to go though, right?
I have a Fred Warner,
yeah, Fred Warner. He's good. You're good to go there with Fred.
I want to say hi to the chat real quick. I'm not going to single you all out, but I just want to say that I am aware of everybody that's in here. We got my old faithfuls. We got some new people in here. Rob D. Art, Aztec. It's been a while. Emiliano, East Coast Red and Gold Podcast. Thank you. David McNiner. Of course, Beto's in here. Why wouldn't he be? Thank you. How about them Niners is in here. I got a new subscriber. I think her name is Amelia Mendoza. She says I subscribe to the channel. I appreciate that very, very much.
She says she's a Trey Lance girl too. I like that.
The Trey Lance girl.
Yep.
I'm listen, I'm all on Trey Lance. I just like I said, if somebody put a gun to my head and it was like, hey, the 49ers have a chance to win the Super Bowl right now, who's your quarterback? Who you taking? I'm going to say Purdy, just because I've seen what he can do. But
okay, thank you for saying this, because this was my argument the other day, Aaron, and I was talking to, God, I don't even remember, maybe it was Kruger, I don't know. Either way, I was having this conversation the other day, and it's like people, I compared it to religion, right? And regardless of religion, it doesn't matter. But some people don't believe in a higher power because they haven't seen the higher power. Like, you got to put full faith into something. If you can't see it, you got to put full faith into this being a real deal, right? And this is where a lot of people, regardless of religion, struggle with religion, is that I can't see this higher power. Like, how can I believe in something I can't see? And so that's the way it is naturally as a human. And so when you see Brock Purdy come out and put it together for a 9-game stretch or what have you, you've seen it. You've seen it with your eyes, and you believe, okay, this could be a real thing. To where Trey Lance, it's like, you've seen flashes and it's only been a couple games, but like, you really got to have faith in believing in something that you haven't yet seen in order to be like, hey, I'm on the Trey Lance train over what I've seen in Brock Purdy, which has been very good, by the way. In fact, I mean, there's no argument. What you've seen with Brock Purdy is much better than what you've seen from Trey Lance, and it's been for a longer period. So I understand why a majority of the fan base is on the Brock Purdy side of things. I can also understand why the players and maybe even the organization would be on the Brock Purdy side of things. I completely understand it. So I'm glad you said that, because that was my argument the other day, is I was comparing it to like a religion type thing. It's like, you really, if you haven't seen it, you really got to believe in something that you haven't yet seen, which is hard for a lot of people to do. And I understand it.
yeah, in religion, it's based on faith and believing in something that you can't prove, but it's an internal thing that a lot of people have. That's what faith is.
Yeah.
And with the whole Trey Lance thing, I'm not anti Trey Lance. I'm just pro 49ers winning. And like, it's just really difficult to think about somebody growing into a position when you have all these players and like maybe a 2-year window where you can kind of really load this roster up. And then you got to start possibly paying a quarterback or something. And man, with Purdy, it's like, it's more of a sure thing, even though it's not really a sure thing at all that we're going to win. And with Trey, we don't know. And we really can't afford to go through growing pains, unfortunately, with the way this roster's currently constructed. I mean, we have a loaded offense. We have a pretty damn good defense, although there's some holes on this defense that need to be addressed in this offseason. And that's one of the topics I want to get into in a bit. But yeah, it's me. I'm not anti Trey Lance at all. I'm just
I know you're not. And I think a lot of people, by the way, I mean, if you get off social media, I think people are pretty reasonable. I also listen. I like Brock Purdy as a person. I think, first of all, hell of a man. I love that he's
a man of
in his
faith
beliefs.
too. Yep.
Yeah, and so for me,
that.
like I really like, I'm inspired by Brock Purdy. This is a kid that I like coming, even in 2020. Before the 2021 draft, when we were in pick 12, I was talking about this guy. There's a clip of me talking about him on Grant Cohn's back in 2021, of like March or February of 2021. So it's not like I dislike Brock Purdy as a player. I just think, like, if I have to choose one, which, by the way, the organization is putting us in this scenario, most people are going to choose. Doesn't mean that you don't like either guy, but you're going to make a choice naturally, because that's the way that life works. Then I'm choosing Trey Lance. Like, that's who I'm going to ride with, is the guy that I think can be the long-term answer. But I don't begrudge anybody that picks Purdy. If Purdy's the guy, then let's go. Like, let's rock. Because like you said, I'm rooting for the logo, And so if we think that's Brock Purdy, then that's what we're going with. I think it would be the wrong choice personally, but I'm going to get behind it if that's the choice that they go with.
Yeah, I would feel better that both of them to be ready for the season. That would make me feel super comfortable, because say Trey struggles, or Trey gets nicked up, which I hope doesn't happen. I hope the Niners quarterback injuries are kind of a thing of the past this year, because it was just ridiculous. I mean, really, all of them, all
Yeah,
of your
dude,
quarterbacks got hurt. Like, when
right.
does that ever happen?
Right.
I forgot who was saying that he asked his father, somebody within the sports, somebody on the 49ers. It might have been, forgot who on the team. Somebody, and he's like, no, I've never seen anything like that happen in sports ever in football, where every single quarterback was injured from your first to your fifth, fourth. So
Yeah, they went through four.
Four quarterbacks. That just doesn't happen. So
No.
hopefully this was an anomaly and, not the the norm for the 49ers, which with the injuries, it seems like it's been a norm for them since Kyle and John took over. But that's a whole other thing to talk about. I want to make this a quick thing because I don't want to waste a ton of time on it. But the combine starts on 28th. With the Niners being not picking until the third round, do you have any people that you're paying attention to, that Jesse's paying attention to, specific position groups, certain guys, whatever?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that it would be nice to get a young safety out of this draft. I think it would be nice to get a second tight end, a center, maybe a future center would be great as well. For me, as far as names go, I haven't gotten that deep into things. Forsyth out of Oregon, Forsyth, however you want to say his name. I'm an Oregon Duck guy, and so I know that he's a legit center. He's also probably a guy that's going to be like round 5th to undrafted, so he's a guy that you can get super late. But I think he would be perfect for this offense, man. He's extremely mobile. He gets to the next level. He can pull, which is huge in this offense. Plus, he's a leader. I feel like he's a guy that you can get on the line of scrimmage, and he can call out protections and do all the things that are needed in this offense. And for a guy that late in the draft, you got to take it. But I think that I'll be curious to see who they keep, who they fill out through free agency, and then we'll have a better grasp of what we think they can do in the draft. But I think a young safety is a must at some point this offseason. I think a second tight end, and then really bolstering that defensive and offensive line. I mean, you got to win in the trenches. And for me, Aaron, it's crazy because the 49ers have spent, how many assets have they put into the defensive line since Shanahan's been here?
That's pretty much
go into this offseason, bro. That's a weak point. It is
a weak point. It's a major weak point. A lot of people,
you got to figure it out.
A lot of people killed me for saying during the playoffs that I thought the Niners maybe have a third best defensive line out of like the Cowboys and the Eagles, because the Niners were really it was the Bosa show. Like, who on that defensive line other than Bosa and Armstead could you say, yeah, he's a legitimate starter. He's a great contributor. He's an every down guy. No, you had two guys and then a bunch of just really solid rotational pieces. You can have really good rotational pieces if you got at least a good 4 or 5 solid starters on the defensive line. And when I say 5, I mean like, I don't know, like how the Niners were when they had Ronald Blair. You had like the main defensive line, and then you had Ronald Blair and DJ Jones. Those like 6 were like the dudes, and the Niners really only had 2. And it got really frustrating for me because it's like everybody was saying that like I didn't believe in this great defense. And I'm like, yes, we have all the stats, and yes, we're number 1. But when you go up against good teams that can protect the quarterback and have quarterbacks that can move and throw the ball, like that's, even as great as the defense is, they can get exposed. And I thought the Niners, not saying they got exposed against the Eagles because that was just an anomaly, but someone like Abucom, it's like, there's other guys on the defensive line. It's like, Amenahue, maybe the one guy that I wouldn't mind bringing back. Of course, we're going to see Kalia Davis, see if he becomes something. But yeah, they definitely have some work to do on the D line for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe a boring draft for most fans, but for me, it'll be interesting if like they just go defensive and offensive line through the draft. I'd be like, sweet, you know what I mean? Because we need
just stock up. There's no reason not to. I mean, at this point, you're drafting round 3. I mean, it's really round 4, basically, is what you're drafting.
And
you
they
got a bunch
3
of round
straight. Yeah, they have 3 straight compensatory picks, if I'm not correct, right?
Yeah, I think it's 3 out of 4. It's like 99, 101, and 102 or something like that. Yeah.
Interesting. You think there's any movement? You think they'd move around a little bit? Maybe come up, go back?
I mean, maybe, but the 49ers, it's interesting. Like they're really, last year we thought there would be movement. They had something like 13 picks and they used them all. So, we'll see. I think it's one of those things where the 49ers develop extremely well, especially with some of these later round picks.
Yep.
That they do a good job of kind of stashing players,
They
future
redshirt them.
deals, throw them on the practice squad, that type of stuff, and then next year they turn into something. I feel like this is one of those ways that they can really stock the shelves. And shoot, if 2 or 3 don't do anything ever, don't even make the team, no big deal. You drafted these guys late, but if you can in this drafting where they're at in the back half, if you can get 2 or 3 actual contributors, long-term contributors, that's a win. That's a win.
Most of your starters are drafted through the 3rd to 7th round. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The majority of your roster is not built with 1st and 2nd round picks. It's just not. It's just not happening.
Oh, the numbers, yeah, it's impossible. Yeah.
So you have to hit on those mid rounders. I have a real funny. I got to show this because we were talking off chat about Jesse's prolific martial arts skills. And she said, "The gentleman in the black hat, you look like you have an MMA background. I'm curious, do you? If you don't, my apologies. I have no idea what that's about, but yeah."
Yeah, I don't. What is there like a look that's like your face has been punched a lot? Is that what it is? I don't know. Yes, I definitely do. I've trained off and on for 22 years, and I love it. I think it's a beautiful sport. Love everything about it. Love watching it. Love talking about it. Everything. So yes, most definitely. I don't know if that's a compliment.
Guy? Are
I
you
am a jiu-jitsu
Muay Thai?
guy, mainly jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
But see, that's for me being a bigger guy and not a fast guy. If anything that I would ever want to learn would be jiu-jitsu, just to immobilize somebody instead of throwing hands with a guy that's half my age who's probably really fast and skinny.
Yeah.
If I could just, tap your life out for a bit and make you go sleep, that's all I would ever learn how to do. But you got to be for much as I know, you have to be extremely flexible.
Yeah, you do.
And this martial arts, and especially jiu-jitsu, it's all about flexibility.
It is. It definitely is. And I'm not a small guy by any means.
Yeah, me neither.
But I've always been very flexible. So that's one of those things that jiu-jitsu fits me very, very well.
CJ Gray says, don't roll up on Jesse talking ish. Yeah. Well, we were talking about that in the chat about, or off screen, about his I would say pro wrestling. Yeah. His I keep saying prolific martial arts skills, but I mean that respectfully. I'm not being a jerk because I don't know anything. So March 15th is free agency starts.
Mm-hmm.
The Niners have some guys who could stay, could go, and then and I look at it and I say, okay, the first thing that they have to do is get some cap space. So
yeah.
We're probably going to agree that the 3 guys that they're probably going to restructure are going to be Bosa, CMC, and Warner.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. Bosa, anytime there's a long, giant deal, usually the first year is always really low because they do a lot of, signing bonus, and even the second year usually. But then as you get into the later years, that's when the cap number goes up. I guess my question is, we made that one big move last year in Charvarius Ward. Could you see a similar way of going about things in the free agency period? As far as maybe bringing in one big guy like a Jerron Payne or Davenport, the edge rusher from the Saints. I know that's like, a long shot, and that, there'll be other teams with a lot more money that have way more, wiggle room with that kind of stuff. But anything on that?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what their MO is, really. I mean, you look even from 2019, that's what they've done. It's just like one big guy. Their big guy that offseason was Quan Alexander. They've done the Charvarius Ward. They usually bring in one. Trent Williams was the trade a couple years ago. So every offseason, that's kind of their MO, is go get one guy that they target that is a big name guy, but almost kind of under the radar at the same time. Like, isn't going to be the number one guy on most people's lists, but is like, hey, if we could get him also, that'd be great. And they go after him and say, hey, this is our guy. We're going to target this person immediately and go after him. I don't know who that player is this year. I hope it's Jerron Payne. They did sniff around with Washington at the trade deadline, tried to pry Jerron Payne. Also, they were unsuccessful in doing so. But hopefully he's a guy. I could see them going a little bit older at that position and going to Javon Hargrave, pull him from Philadelphia. I could see them going that route as well. But I definitely think they're going to bring in a guy. Who that guy is, I'm not quite sure. Now, the moves that you're talking about would put them at around 38 million in salary cap space, which is a good amount going into the offseason. They certainly can free up more. They can get up closer to that $70 million range, depending on what they want to do. You've got Kittle, you've got Armstead, you've got Charvarius Ward, who you mentioned, you've got Trent Williams. You can rework those deals and get up in that $70 million range. Now, I don't think they're going to do that, and I don't think that would be smart because
No,
you are kicking the can down the road, but that is a
exactly.
possibility. And for a team that is this close to winning a Super Bowl, what does it look like to go all in? Because we saw it with Philadelphia. They certainly gave everything they had. They came up short, unfortunately for them, but they did everything they could to go quote unquote all in with a quarterback on a rookie deal. Do the 49ers do something similar where they choose one of those other guys to restructure, pull in another 10 to 12 million and really go after it this offseason? I'm curious to see what
Me
they
too.
do and where that position comes from.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see if they're going to go against their normal way of doing things and maybe be slightly more aggressive than we've been accustomed to. I mean, they are close. They are close. I mean, that's a great roster, but like I could see edge, I could see interior D tackle, I could see center, I could see right tackle. I wouldn't mind them making a move, like you said, for another tight end, maybe attack the secondary, whether that's in the draft or free agency. I just there's I know Larry Krueger is big on the safety from the Eagles. I mean, he's
Chauncey
like,
Gardner-Johnson, I'm big on
oh
him as well.
yeah, he
Yeah.
was like, the Niners gotta do it. Come on, Niners,
Yeah.
make the move. And
Yeah.
whew, he was laying some hits in that Super Bowl. Man, I'm a big hit guy because I grew up
Yeah.
during the era of the Lawrence Taylors, Ronnie Lotts, and
Yeah, for
into the
sure.
early 2000s. So anytime there's a little clacking of helmets and somebody getting knocked backwards, I love it. To me, the greatest tackle I've ever seen was Sheldon Brown against Reggie Bush. I thought he killed him. Like that was the most pure knockout ass tackle I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't mind another thumper, replace Jimmy
Yeah,
Ward.
and I feel like the 49ers have added that a little bit with Afunga and Greenlaw, for sure. I mean, they're definitely not. I felt like for a couple years, like even in 2019, they were a little softish. I felt like Quan Alexander kind of brought that mentality to the team, which was much needed. Now, Greenlaw grew up under his tutelage, and you can see that he has some of that same fire. Afunga definitely is a natural hitter. I think Fred's starting to grow into that as well. It would be nice though to have somebody on the defensive line that's mean though too and can strike fear in you. And I feel like Kinlaw personality wise fits that, but player wise does not,
No.
unfortunately. And maybe that guy can be a Deron Payne or a Hargrave or somebody like that. But there are options. I would love to have a Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, but to me, he would be like the secondary guy that you would bring in. You have to address either the O line, the D line, attack those trenches, sure that up, and then if you can also bring in a Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I love it. But that can't be the main guy because everybody this offseason is talking about you got to go through the trenches. That's how you win. Trenches defense, trenches offense. And then to make your splash signing somebody in the secondary, it's like, well, I mean, it'd be great. We'd all talk about it. We would all love a player like that. But what did you do to address the biggest areas of need, which were the trenches? I'm curious about that.
Springtime Ocean said he liked Kruger's idea of bringing in Chase Young. I want to stay away from the injuries, man.
Yeah, but how? Like, is it like you're trading Trey Lance for him? Is that? I mean,
Yeah, who
how
are
else do
you
you bring
get?
in
Yeah,
Chase Young?
that would be a fantasy, a dream, But
Yeah, and by the way, I mean that actually makes a lot of sense. If Brock Purdy's your guy, they need a quarterback. They just went and got Eric Bieniemy. But that's also a way to really have egg on your face as a 49ers organization is give Trey Lance Eric Bieniemy and let him develop them, and then you look really stupid in 2 or 3 years. And I don't think that's something
100%
they want to
agree
do.
with that. Yeah,
Yeah,
go give them away. Just like the
yeah,
people that want to say, yeah, fire Shanahan. Oh, really?
yeah,
So why he
yeah.
can
And
go
get
to a
who?
team that has a great quarterback and all of a sudden he wins? Like how Andy Reid has done it. He just finally had his guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, who are you going to replace? That's my favorite one. The people that
Yeah,
say get rid of him.
Kinlaw on a third. That's definitely not going to happen.
Kinlaw
Absolutely
has
not.
absolutely no value
No,
at all.
no.
He's. I have strong feelings on him. So speaking of free agency on the Niners, a couple guys that look like they're probably on their way out the door. Jimmy Ward, I'm trying to think who else. Why am I blanking?
Well, I mean, Mosley, maybe.
Okay.
We've got
McGlinchey,
McGlinchey for sure.
which
Who else?
I will not be upset if he leaves. I'm just gonna say.
Yeah.
I know. I was gonna say. I know you feel. I have a feeling you feel different about that one. I just had
It's
this feeling.
no, it's not. Listen, it's not that I feel like overly different about it. I just think that right tackle play is not very good in the NFL. Like we're used to McGlinchey. We saw him get rock bottom against Dallas, and everybody like really hated him after that, even more so than maybe they already did. So I understand it, but if you watch him play in and play out, it's actually not that bad at all. In fact, it's pretty good. The problem is he's going to price himself out, and I'm not willing to pay 16 million or 14, 15, 16 million a year for Mike McGlinchey. It's the whole argument at quarterback that if you don't have one of those top guys, you just keep drafting guys until you get one, or you stream them as long as you can and get them on the rookie deals and keep it going. You don't want to overpay for any of these positions. It's not worth it. If let's say he's the 8th or 10th best right tackle in the league, you're going to pay him top right tackle money on top of everything else that you got to do. That doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
So I think he'll get paid somewhere else.
Yeah, I just I mean, they get because he's been relatively unhealthy for the last couple of years too. So that's always something that I think about because the Niners, are notorious with their injuries, and it'd be nice to get someone a little bit more healthier, maybe a little bit younger. I'm not saying he's old, but I don't know. I'm just not a McGlinchey guy. And you're right. That play against Dallas really pissed me off. He got Reggie Whited, as like someone in the comments said. But
it was
let's
bad.
talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk 49ers. I've heard this from Matt Barrows. I've heard this from Matt Mayoko. I've heard this from I'm trying to think who else. It might have been Lombardi. They're not good. It doesn't look like they're picking up Kinlaw's 5th-year option. Thoughts?
No, and that's the right move. I mean, how do you at this point? The thing is when you look at a player, you've got to see it at this point. And I feel like not only has he been injury prone, but he just hasn't been that good when he's played. And that's just kind of the way that it is. And a lot of that could be because of the injury. I mean, if you really look at it, he hasn't had any of these off seasons to develop. None of them. He's been injured and rehabbing every offseason except for that first year, which happened to be when COVID was happening. So it was a shortened offseason anyways. When has his development time been there? His development has been playing, and that's not how you develop. I mean, the NFL is not a developmental league. You've got to develop in the offseason. You got to put in the work. You got to have the preseason. All that stuff matters. Training camp, that's where you develop, not during the games. And unfortunately for him, because of his injuries, the developmental time has been while he's playing, and that is no way to go about it. So, whether it's injury, whether it's just overall talent, I mean, he hasn't shown it. He's also been very injury prone. You cannot pick up a 5th-year option on somebody like that. It's far too expensive. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Not only does his play on the field leave a lot to be desired and his inability to stay healthy, but I just, as a personality wise, he sits he just doesn't sit well with me. And I know that doesn't really matter as long as somebody performs, but the fact is he's not performing.
Right.
Anytime I see him talk to the press, there's always this absolute like wannabe what's his name? Warren Sapp, like a low budget Warren Sapp, like all this animosity and snarkiness towards the press. And you've done absolute shit in the league. I don't know, it bothers me. And then you couple the fact that like he was drafted he's a top 15 pick. He's played 13 out of 40 games since he's been drafted. He's not a pass rusher, and he's inconsistent against the run. So what value are you? Like, what do you offer? To me, he's a dude in a rotation, but you didn't draft him for that. You drafted him to be a difference maker. That's why I don't like 1-for-1 comps, like where you draft a guy to replace a guy. I think it's stupid. That's why them drafting Tristan Wirfs would have been the better play because, we'll draft somebody else later in the draft, maybe, or something, or a combination of guys, and we'll get the same production. But Buckner, he's never sniffed what Buckner could do, and I don't know. The Niners have had some really big hits with their drafting, especially in the later round, and they've had some pretty big misses. This is definitely one of the bigger misses that they've had.
Yeah, 100%. And if they had traded Debo last offseason, I know there was a lot of chatter about that. One of the things that I tweeted was, if they trade Debo, do not draft another receiver in round one. Do not. Like, don't make that comparison. Don't even put it on that kid. Go get a receiver in round 2 or 3 or whatever you see fit, but do not make that first pick a receiver, because if they don't pan out, they're always going to be compared to Debo Samuel, and that's just not something you want to do. It's unfair, and you don't do one for ones like that. That's not the way the league works. And Kinlaw, that's what it was, and he was always going to be compared to Buckner, whether it's fair or not. I know that he wants to play. I know that he has the heart and desire to want to be good. I mean, anybody who is going to have that many injuries to a knee and is doing everything he can, but a part of staying healthy the best he can is losing weight. And that's kind of what his strength was he was a man amongst boys. He was a guy who was overly strong, heavy, big, and could just move people. And now to me, he looks a good 30, maybe even 40 pounds lighter than he was at his heaviest. And I understand why he did it. It's so that he could continue to play. Removing that weight from the knee helps him stay healthier, but that doesn't make him a better football player. You didn't draft him to be 290. You drafted him to be 320.
Yeah, and it's them drafting him knowing what they knew about his knees and they still doing it anyways, to me was another blunder. To me, I think they've gotten better with their medicals as far as paying attention to him and not maybe taking a guy off the board or pushing him down, into later rounds or maybe even undrafted. But his knees, I have cranky knees, but I'm 43. He's like 24, 23, 24. Like, that's a problem. Especially when you go with the guy of that, like you said, that size. I mean, he's a massive human being. Like, I'm a big guy, but he's like different level big.
Yeah.
He fills out a door when he goes through it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, he literally, like, if he's in a doorway, you don't see past him. And to have cranky knees at that age, and it was a problem that he had coming out of college, and the Niners drafted him anyways. So to me, I don't like his quote unquote kind of crusty attitude, but them drafting him wasn't his fault. They drafted him. He didn't draft himself. So if anybody's got egg on their face, it's the Niners. It's not him. I like how 49er minded thinks cranky knees is funny. Sounds right. It sounds right to me.
It does sound right. I like it.
Niner Sickness says they should have kept DJ Jones and let Kinlaw walk.
Yeah.
I
Unfortunately,
love
you would have had to pay both, and there's just DJ Jones is getting paid way too well for what he brings to the table as well.
Yes. Jump over back to the offense about a topic that I blasted the person when they reported it during the last offseason or end of the season. And then it was brought back up this season with his interview with the guy that he works with in the offseason, Trey Lance's dead arm issue. I didn't believe Silver. I didn't believe any of the other guys that were, because how the media is kind of with the 49ers sometimes. Feels like they have an agenda. So of course, sometimes you don't want to listen to reason. You want to hate the person that's making the report. But it looks like, it wasn't to the level that they were maybe making it to be, where it could be like something that could ruin his career, but he definitely was having issues. I didn't realize they said almost 20 straight months with a week off. That's ridiculous. So I know a lot of people are going to say he's got a lot of excuses and he needs to just play, but that's a pretty big deal. What was your when you kind of heard that? Were you taken back, or were you not surprised?
Not at all. In fact, it was weird to me that everybody started pulling up Silver's stuff now, because Shanahan kind of confirmed that there was a little something going on. He didn't get like super deep into it, but he was asked about it, and he's like, yeah, he might have had a little soreness, not that big of a deal, but that's him kind of confirming it. My issue was, it wasn't that Silver reported it. It's that a lot of these guys that report things also interject their personal thoughts as to why it could be happening. If Silver had just come out and said, hey, you know what? Trey Lance had a sore arm, something to keep an eye on, whatever. That would be one thing. And he may have in his articles. I don't know. I didn't read his articles. But what he did do when talking with Colin Cowherd is they had a lot of speculation as to why, and they made it related to mechanical issues. And, is this always going to be a thing? His mechanics are a little clunky. And if he's got clunky mechanics, it's always going to put extra torque on that arm. And can he make it through a season? Like, that's the conversations they were having. That is not. And for me, that's what I was upset about. It wasn't even then. I wasn't like, oh, this isn't true or whatever. It was just like, yeah, but the reasons you're giving don't necessarily add up. And so when he talked about it and gave context and was like, yeah, I don't know any quarterback that could go 20 straight months throwing with maybe a week off and not have an arm that's dead. Like, every quarterback takes time off every year. There's a reason for that, is because you've got to heal from the season. I never had that opportunity. So I powered through for 2 straight seasons, essentially throwing more than I ever had. Of course, my arm was dead. And then the fact is, when Silver reported it, it wasn't when that was going on. It was a year later. Yeah. So the timing was, okay, so a whole year later, we're talking about a dead arm last season. And then we're using his mechanics as a possible reason why. And we're questioning now, can he make it through a season with clunky mechanics and a dead arm? That's the way it was packaged. It wasn't packaged as like, oh, last year he had some arm fatigue and, something to keep an eye on. Maybe it'll be a problem this offseason, what have you. But I'll make sure I'm at training camp. I'll make sure to report on it. That's not how it was packaged. So it was to me, it was very personalized and shoddy in the way that it was packaged. And that's what I had an issue with. It wasn't that I never believed that it could be possible. It's the reasons as to why it was possible. And so when we hear Trey Lance talk about it, and then everybody's like, well, man, I now I got to go apologize to Silver because well, if you were an asshole, first of all, like, don't shoot the messenger. If you were making death threats to Silver over arm fatigue, then maybe go look in the mirror and you have some apologizing to do for sure. But if you just thought like, not that big of a deal, I think he's blowing this out of proportion, which is what I thought, then I'm not apologizing for anything because I still think he blew it out of proportion.
Yeah, what's one of those guys? It sounds like to me like he got some information, and didn't have much else, so he added his own take on it. And then you get a guy like Cowherd who has his own agenda for other reasons,
for sure.
And people are saying like, no, that's not the case. And yes, it is. He's been on the Trey Lance hate train since his daughter broke up with a guy. No doubt in my mind. So I don't want to hear it. But Silver's blocked. He blocked me. I didn't say anything really mean. I just said he was a hack or something. I don't know. Sometimes I could turn into my old self on Twitter that I was before I became a YouTuber. I could be a little bit of a troll and just call people out on their bullshit. And sometimes I get blocked. I'm not usually like that because I'm trying to be nice and put a good front on. But every once in a while, the old me creeps back through and I say stuff. But
I get it. We're all human. But he went on a blocking rampage. He didn't block. This is how I know I didn't say anything out of pocket, is he didn't block me. And we've actually gone back and forth on Twitter a couple times, and he's never blocked me. So I know I didn't say anything out of pocket. And I just didn't think it was that big of a deal. I thought he was blowing it out of proportion. I still feel the same way. So nothing for me to apologize.
I'm definitely like 49er minded, man. We get really upset sometimes with just so much Trey Lance crap. There's almost so much thrown at the kid. And man, 49er minded, sometimes we'll be talking off stream, talking just like on the phone, and he's just like, I freaking hate how much hate he gets. And I totally get the same way sometimes. Like, you start thinking about it. And that's why I tweet something to the guy and he blocks me, because it's like, enough's enough, man. Leave the kid alone. But yeah. I thought that was interesting. Real quick, we got Raj in the house.
What's up, Raj?
I freaking love this guy.
I'm so happy he got his channel back, man. That was jacked up.
Me too. He's talking to somebody in the chat who says we're talking about old news. We need new topics. It's the offseason, homie. It's what we do. Got to make stuff up as we go. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see what else here. Some coaching news. We have a new offensive untitled position in Clint Kubiak. We already have Clay Kubiak, and I was looking through the 6 degrees of separation or whatever it's called. How like the Niners are connected with so many people from their past. They go back to like 94. I think Kubiak was the quarterback coach. Shanahan, Mike Shanahan was the OC. And then you had freaking what's his name on the staff too as the defensive coach, the coach of the Seahawks. It's just amazing. The Niners are like connected with everything. It's like really it's intriguing. And then you have the two Kubiak brothers on the staff now with Kyle. I don't know much about Clint Kubiak, to be honest with you. I know he was an offensive coordinator with the Vikings, and then he was in that debacle in Denver, which you can't really blame him that was just a bad situation. It was just it just wasn't a great fit. I just think Kyle is underrated with how he just continues to just churn these guys. Now, for a fact, if you say he's an offensive coach and they have a really good year, or Steve Wilks does his thing, the Niners are going to have to be searching for coaches again next offseason. It's ridiculous. I wish the Niners would go a little low under the radar with some of their coaches, but what's your take on Clint, the Kubiak, and his brother's the assistant quarterback coach?
Yep.
And my question because of this is, are they doing this because maybe Brian Griese isn't coming back? Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I think Griese will be back, but what they are doing is they're surrounding the coaching staff, the offensive coaching staff, with guys that know the quarterback position very well. And I think it's smart. I mean, you've got two young quarterbacks that you're trying to develop at the same time. So why not get as many voices in as possible that know what they're doing, that can show cohesion, and if maybe one of their coaching styles gets through to Trey Lance better than Brock Purdy and vice versa, I just think it's really smart to do it. And you can tell that they are investing in the future of the quarterback position through their coaches to both of these young men. It makes a ton of sense to me. And I think that's where the Kubiak name really excels, is around quarterback play and offensive prowess. And so to have two Kubiaks and Griese on the staff, I expect a lot of good things, and the development should be really on point, which is the most important thing right now.
It was said that Clay Kubiak was one of the people responsible for drafting Brock Purdy. I was listening to Locked On. Was it Locked On 49ers with Crocker and Peacock? Or I'm trying to think if it was Mayoka and his show, but one of them talked about it. And Purdy gave a lot of credit to Brian Griese and those guys this year. And I think for the first time, and even Garoppolo's play was better.
Yeah.
People think that coaches are just whatever and it's all about the players. Coaches, really good coaches, have an impact. Go watch some highlights of Troy Aikman flipping out on the sideline after they lost Jimmy Johnson, and they had that other dip on the sideline. And he's talking about the coach freaking high-fiving players and not getting after them, and it didn't used to be like this and stuff. And it matters, not just in the X's and O's, but in accountability and all that stuff. So it's great. I'm keep adding on, man. And the 49ers quarterback, it's vital that the quarterback position gets a lot of attention if we want to accomplish anything.
100%. And, you see it. This is, for Kyle, it's smart because maybe that's kind of Kyle's blind spot. We haven't really seen him develop a quarterback. And so why not get guys in that you can trust to do that job for you? There's nothing wrong with that. If you have a blind spot, then that's what good leadership and coaching does. They bring in guys that can fill in for those blind spots. So go get 3 of them. You got 3 of them now that can really oversee the quarterback position, develop these guys, report to you, and you got 3 different voices. You can kind of weed through that and say, hey, listen, maybe 2 of these guys are Purdy guys. One of these guys is a Lance guy. Let's get everybody's opinion. Let's sit in a room and hash this thing out. And I don't know. I think it's extremely smart of Shanahan to do.
He did it with Skaggs and whatever all their offensive coaches left after they drafted Trey Lance. They weren't on board. Listen, you got to be 100% on board with who you got. And if you got people in the building that are undercutting or not down, then they got to go. And so you got to have it's got to be a one-track mind as an organization, as coaching staff. Everybody's got to be in agreement. It's not like a dictatorship. It's a football team, and you need to have everybody on the same page. So if somebody's undercutting or talking to other assistants and saying, I don't know about this guy. I mean, that's not good. You can't have that. So to me too, Kyle has a lot of responsibility, and if you can help him concentrate on game day and getting this team ready for game day, and you got all those other great coaches in the back row and doing all this other stuff to help him out, that's a well-oiled machine, because coaches have, Kyle, like they get a couple weeks off. He's in Cabo right now with all the players, and then he's right back at it, and then he's not going to have time off again until next offseason when he goes back to Cabo. So, like, anytime you can get anybody already breaking down certain things for you in the offseason, getting you ahead of the game, so when you come back into the building, you're ready to go, it's freaking vital. So props to him continuing to kick ass and bring in guys that are all on the same page. Because in business and in sports and in life, if you're not on the same page, you're going to have problems. And so this team is close, man. The last thing they need is infighting. So that, to me, it's vital.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And the Kubiaks, they know what they're doing, man. I was excited about the hire last year and bringing in Greasy. I just thought it was a great fit. And, you add more minds, smart guys. I mean, there's never anything wrong with that. And there's a lot, man, there's a lot of smart guys in this building, a lot of guys who have held much higher titles than the ones they do now.
Yep.
And for them to all be here and come together, I mean, that's a big deal. It really is.
Well, because it helps them down the road when they get a job or possibly get a job. If they're successful, if they're on board, if they do their job great, it reflects on them. And then maybe 2-3 years later, Clint Kubiak is an offensive coordinator. And then a couple years after that, he's a head coach. That's how it works.
Yeah.
That's how it all starts. I mean, Kyle was I forgot exactly what his position was when he was on the Texans. It all started under Kubiak when he was coaching the Texans. Yeah. That's where Kyle got his start.
I mean, he was like offensive quality control. He even was like a defensive quality control. Then he was a quarterback
Isn't
coach.
That the person that gets all the tape and everything ready for the...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think quality control fits. I mean, ask Grant. He's 49ers quality control. He'll tell you.
That's right. I forgot about that.
No, I mean, that's what I imagine is they're the guy that's like breaking down film, collecting film, letting you know tendencies before you get into that week so that they can kind of game plan around some of those tendencies that you're seeing. That's what I would imagine it is. So, yeah, I mean, he did a lot of different things and before he became an offensive coordinator.
I would be the coffee boy for the 49ers if they asked.
For sure, yeah.
I'd be drinking most of it because I drink like 6 cups a day, but that's a whole other thing. They'd be like, what's happening? It's always out.
Right.
Talking about coaches, I wanted to ask you about, I haven't talked to you since it happened. I haven't talked to you for a long time until today, but the Steve Wilks hire, it's a new defense coordinator. Yeah, he's maybe more aggressive. He does mostly cover 3, this, that, and the other. One of the things that was brought to a lot of people's attention was the fact that he's big on secondary.
Mm-hmm.
How vital and how much change do you think he could help the Niners secondary this year become even better? Because, I mean, if you look at our defense, what was the one thing that the people said that they could attack? It was the back end, right? Especially the corners.
Yep.
I mean, Charvarius Ward has played well and Diamador Lenore, but the Niners pass rush wasn't as great, and the Niners could be had. I don't want to make too much out of it, but are you interested to see what Wilks can do with the guys on the back end? Maybe coach them up, make them better?
Yeah, definitely. And when his name was brought up, I had reached out to a Panthers content creator and got the scoop on him. And I read what he said, right on my show. And I think a lot of people got excited from the words that we were hearing. He's a leader of men, which is something that you could see the consistency here. And this is, as soon as I learned who Wilks was, it seemed to me like he was going to be the favorite. And this was weeks ago because it was right in line.
I saw you on Twitter.
With Saleh and D'Amico Ryans, just their coaching style as far as galvanizing troops and being leader of men. And so for me, I was like, okay, this guy fits that mentality. And then he brings in that experience with the secondary. It sounds like he was the main reason that Josh Norman got a big contract back in the day with Washington when he was with Carolina. He's done a great job with J.C. Horn and some of these other young guys. So, and then when you listen to the other players on the team, offense or defense, they talk about him. They all love him. They all say that he's a leader. I just think it's a great fit. And the fact that he is a secondary guy is fantastic because the linebackers are in a really good spot. We know that Chris Kocurek is arguably the best defensive line coach in the business.
Yep.
So we're
Agreed.
on lock there. So yeah, get a guy that can coach up the secondary. I love it, especially if you're going to lose some of these guys. If you're going to lose a Gibson or a Ward or an Emmanuel Mosley, you're going to need somebody to coach these guys up and kind of bring up their level of play. And I think that there is no better fit. I love the Wilks hire.
Yeah, you were big on that. I was watching. I'm obsessively on Twitter because I'm out of work, so I'm always on.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm always on Twitter. I need to get off of it because it makes me angry a lot of times. But
For sure.
I'm like, what's happening? Why am I angry? Oh, that's right. I'm always on Twitter. You did bring it up probably 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, before they hired him.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people were like, oh, Fangio, including myself. But then I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, they're gonna have to change everything. He's kind of a crusty old man. He does things a certain way.
Yeah.
The Niners are in a win now mode. They're not. None of these guys like Bosa and Warner want to change and have to relearn a defense. It's not conducive to success. It's got to be seamless, and maybe he adds something else. Like they say, he's mostly a cover 3 guy. He likes to blitz, but then some people were saying he only blitzed a lot in Carolina because they didn't have a pass rush, and then he might not blitz as much with the 49ers. So those are all things, the mental overload that you hear about all this stuff, but it's fun. It's not, I love it. It's football, but
Yeah, I think like schematically he obviously fits. I think the schematics of Fangio were a little bit overblown. I think Fangio certainly would have made it work, but kind of to your point, you call him like a crotchety old man. I think that's
he reminds me of my Uncle
ultimately
Tony, an old Italian guy. I have an Uncle
Hey,
Tony. He's just never happy.
Tony.
He's never happy.
Yeah.
He's always mad all the time, forever.
Hey, Uncle Tony. Yeah, that's the way I feel. I feel like Fangio, his personality probably doesn't fit with Shanahan and what the 49ers want to do. And I think ultimately that's probably why they went the Wilks direction, because I believe if they wanted Fangio, he would have been here.
Yeah. Let him, but that's my brother's squad in Miami, so I hope they do well. That team, man, I feel bad. They have a lot of talent on the Miami squad. They just injuries killed them too. I mean, they had Teddy Bridgewater come in for one play and got injured on an interception return. My brother's like, "What? Get out of here! You're so soft." Every time I talk about us losing the NFC Championship game, he's like, "I don't want to hear it. We lost all our quarterbacks too this year." I'm like, "Yeah, but you weren't a contender, so whatever." But yeah, anytime I bring it up, he's like, I don't want to hear it. So
yeah, he's like, I don't feel sorry for you.
I do not feel sorry for the 49ers at all. Although he's very supportive of them when his team isn't playing. So,
well, that's nice.
Let's see what else we got left here. A couple of things. The Debo trade rumors. What the hell? Somebody told me it's not a thing, but don't be surprised if they do something down the road. I think that was Raj who kind of brought that to my attention. It could be something that they do down the road. If Ayuk ends up being a guy and they keep him and they can move off of him, what's your take on the first off on the rumors, and could you see something of like them moving off of Debo, maybe in the next couple 2-3 years or something?
Yeah, definitely. I think they're going to have to move off of Debo in the next few years. Not necessarily this offseason or even next, but for sure in the next few, they're gonna have to, because they're going to be signing Brandon Ayuk hopefully long term if he continues to progress the way that we think that he can. It's no surprise that rumors are starting, because of course teams are interested in Debo. They see that the 49ers have two guys that are very similar in CMC and Debo. You can't feed everybody. So let's go swoop in and try to get Debo now. And I think that's smart. If I'm the Patriots, certainly go look at Debo. If I'm, some of these other teams, I'm definitely going to call about Debo. The problem is Debo's contract is not at all tradable. Not before June 1st anyways. It would have to be after June 1st. And then at that point, you're trading for players and not picks. Is that something the 49ers want to do? So I don't think this offseason is likely by any means. But if it were to happen, it'd be after June 1st. And, I do think eventually it will happen for sure.
So instead of finding Nemo, the Patriots would be finding Debo, right?
Yeah, for sure. That was my fantasy football name. Yeah.
I just literally thought of that. Thank you, Jag, for the $2 super. I appreciate it. Holy poop. Frank Tom Motion, thank you for the $10. Thank you for the 2. Thank you for the 10. I appreciate it. Both of you guys. You said about recovering from surgery. Oh, I'm right behind you, homie. Thanks for the great content and keeping off-season fun. Can't wait till next season. Thanks, Aaron and Jesse. Appreciate it. Appreciate that, man. With or without the money, it doesn't matter to me either way, but I appreciate that. And then Jag said, will Mosley start over Lenore if he comes back? It's a good question. I'm almost, to me, I stick with the guy that's healthy.
Yeah.
But Mosley was so good before he got hurt. And I always feel like Diamador Lenore is more suited for the slot because of his size. Same thing with Womack. What is your take?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you can get all three on the field, both Ward, Mosley, and Lenore, then that's the way to go. If you bring back Mosley, you're gonna have to pay him like a starter. So I imagine that he would be the starter. And he was phenomenal.
Do you think, though, even with his injury, that he would still command that kind of money, or do you think the Niners could get him on a cheaper value?
I think what makes it tough is you got coaches out there, defensive-minded coaches that came from this organization that could use a corner.
Yep.
And would probably be willing to pay him.
Willing to overpay, and the Niners won't. I agree.
Yeah. And not only that, but just like, hey, I'm not so worried about the ACL. I know how good of a player he is. I mean, I look at the Texans and go, yeah, I definitely could see D'Amico being like, hey, if the 49ers are going to give you a prove-it deal for $5 million that could escalate up to $10 million for a year, well, we'll give you $8 million guaranteed and escalate it up to 12. So it's just one of those things that you could see. I mean, you've got a coach that's trying to establish a culture. You're going to bring in as many guys as you can that know that culture so that you can build around that and set the tone for your future team. And I think Mosley's just a really good player, and it's unfortunate what happened to him. I would imagine that, it'll bring the guaranteed money down, but knowing that there are ex-defensive coaches out there that know how good he is, he's still young. I have to imagine that that's going to drive up the price a little bit.
We'll know in a couple weeks. It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of a dead period, but it's also kind of an exciting period. I think the post draft period is probably the crappiest period in the offseason for content creators and just fans in general. There's literally nothing going on.
Yeah.
All you want to hear is that everybody's healthy being into camp. The worst thing you want to see on the bottom line of ESPN is blah, blah, blah out for the season with a torn blah while doing like walkthroughs. It's like,
how? Yeah. Torn Achilles walking down the stairs to get a bag of chips. Great.
Yeah, tripped on his cat. He's out for the year. Like that. Literally, that's the kind of stuff that happens.
Yeah.
That the Niners, I want them off that bottom line as much as they can next year. Here's the other thing that really makes me not upset but sad is the Niners. Other than the injury they had a lot of injury at quarterback, but for the most part, their corners getting hurt, they were relatively healthy down the stretch.
They were.
And that's not something that you can replicate. And that's why it sucks even more that they didn't do it this year, because there's no guarantee next year they can stay as healthy.
Yep.
And I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm just being a realist as a person. It's just, man, damn it,
Yeah, outside of the quarterback position, you're right, Aaron. This was the healthiest they had been in years, and that was something that I actually talked about going to the Eagles game. I'm like, look, the Eagles are getting healthy. They got Avonte Maddox back. The 49ers are about as healthy as you can get. I mean, outside of their starting corner, who they've been missing for many weeks anyways, they're healthy. They're extremely healthy down the stretch, and you're going to get both of these teams at their best version. Let's see who the better team is. And we just didn't get to see that. And it sucks.
Jesse says he hasn't streamed since D'Amico got hired. He's been sick. He hasn't really felt like going on. Just wait a couple more weeks, man. Once that free agency and, the combine talk, man, you're going to have some stuff to talk about for sure.
Yeah.
And I hope you feel better, my man. Amelia Mendoza says, do you guys think we make it back to the NFC Championship game? Did I call you Jesse? Sorry.
You did. Yeah, you definitely did call him Jesse.
I almost called him Beto. Sorry, Bashar. My bad. Do you think we make it back to the NFC Championship game?
I definitely think that
they can. So.
Yeah.
The Niners need to get the number 1 seed. That's what they need to do.
Yeah.
No slow
Yeah, I mean
starts.
that would be nice
No
for
slow
sure. It'd be nice to
starts.
have home field. But when you look at the landscape of the NFC, Philadelphia talent-wise is going to take a step back. They've got to pay Hurts. They've got a ton of free agents. Seattle, I think, is coming on strong.
Yep.
That's a team. The Lions are coming on strong, but I think both of those teams are still they're a year away from being a year away. If that makes sense.
Yeah, they're
And
close,
so
but
they're
not
they're
quite
coming
yet.
on strong, but they're not quite ready to push for like NFC Championship. The Packers, whether they have Aaron Rodgers or don't, they're far enough away. Dallas, I think, is kind of a fraud team, anyways. Really, to me, it's like Philadelphia and San Francisco again, and maybe there's a surprise team. Like I said, Seattle, they're going to have 2 first-round picks. Maybe they can draft really well and get there quickly. But ultimately, I think, that's what we're looking at again. And I think the 49ers certainly can make it back to the NFC Championship, no doubt about it. The problem is the Super Bowl for me. And this is where I had a bone to pick a little bit with 49er fans is not only did they assume that if Brock Purdy was healthy, that game was won for sure, which, okay. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe it would have been won,
I might have
but
jumped
they
on that
almost made
train
it.
a little bit.
Yeah, and that's fine. But I feel like the assumption is also they would have won the Super Bowl. And I think that's a really far leap to take is like, okay, we went from not even winning the NFC Championship to now we would have won the Super Bowl. I don't know. I look at what the product that Philly put out on the field, and I understand defensively they certainly wouldn't have had the game plan the 49ers had and wouldn't have done as well. But when you hold the ball for 35 minutes, your quarterback arguably outplays Patrick Mahomes.
And you still
You
lose.
put up 35 and you still lose. I don't think the 49ers win that Super Bowl. I'm sorry. You can call me a pessimist, you can
No,
say
no,
hater,
no.
whatever.
My
I just don't
brother
think
asked
they
me.
would have won.
My brother talked about the same thing.
Mhm.
He's like, "Would you have honestly wanted to lose in this game?" And I told him, I was like, I said, I don't know if we could have kept pace with the Chiefs. I don't.
Mhm.
I think we would have done okay. But if you go out there a couple drives and kick field goals, you're done. It's over. You're beat.
That's it.
Game's
Yeah.
done. You literally have to go score for score with the Chiefs.
Yep.
You have to plan to score almost 50 points. And I'm not even exaggerating. They're that good. Patrick Mahomes is stupid good. Like when I say stupid, I don't mean it in a bad way. Like he's unexplainable how good he is. And it's just he's a legend in the making.
Yep.
He's Brett Favre without the dumb mistakes. You know what I mean? Like he has that kind of. Yeah. Last thing, Bosa contract.
Yeah.
Niners going to go way they usually do this thing and have them ready to go right as camp is starting. You kind of feel that?
Yeah, I mean it's funny because on Grant's show a couple weeks ago, I said one of the topics that I brought up was let's just get the things out of the way now that we know are going to be a thing, so we don't have to talk about them later. And that was one of the things that I talked about. I'm like, listen, Niner fans, Niner content creators, like let's not even talk about why is Bosa not signed in May and June because he's not going to be signed until August. So just chill out. It'll get done. It'll be a topic because, like you said, after the draft, you have the dead time. Why is he not signed? What are they doing? Are they going to sign him? I mean, all the stuff's going to happen again. He'll be signed. It'll be late. It's what the 49ers do.
Yeah, they'll get him. I don't have any doubt of the 49ers and him. Just know that the Bosas get their money. That's a family that gets paid.
Yeah.
I think Nick is better than Joey.
Yep.
I mean, Joey stays hurt. But I think Nick's better than Joey. I just pass rushers are so rare, great, elite, Hall of Fame level pass rushers that you do what you have to do in order to re-sign that guy. I really don't give a rat's ass what kind of voodoo that you got to work on the salary cap. You make it happen. So
yeah,
because try to replicate it and it'll never happen. 18 and a half sacks when he was really the only guy that was rushing the passer. If the Niners would have had one other guy rushing off the other end, I think he would have broke the sack record this year. That's just my personal thought. It was literally him. And nobody else was really, the needle wasn't moving other than Nick Bosa. So
no, not at all. Not at all.
Well, my friend, I appreciate it. This has been fun. Sucks we can't do this during the season, but I know you're busy and you have a ton of stuff going on, but I'll take it when I can get it. This was awesome. I had a friggin' boatload of fun.
I appreciate it, Aaron. And anybody who's here and you're not subscribed to Aaron's channel, make sure you give a subscription, give a like. That helps the algorithm so that people can find him. So make sure that you show him love.
I'm almost 100. I got 100 subs or so before I hit 6K. I'm like 118 away.
So I feel it's funny. I feel like I'm your lucky rabbit's foot, because I feel like every time you're about to hit a milestone, I'm on like right before.
I might have thought of that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, see, it's fine. It's all right. So being his lucky rabbit's foot, let's get everybody to like and subscribe. Let's get that 100. Let's get him to 6K. Show him some love. Show him some appreciation, and send him into the off season feeling good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. David McNiner, he said if we sign Bosa early, does it open up cap room? It would. Yeah. But I just don't think that's a possibility. Those kind of things, they never. If that deal was to happen before camp, that would be like revolutionary. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Amelia says she really enjoyed the show tonight. I appreciate that. I appreciate you subbing. Appreciate you grilling Jesse on his MMA skills. Yeah. We literally talked about that off air, and then you put that message in the chat. Freaking hilarious. I can't believe that. But thank you, everybody, for in the chat. Thank you for the supers, everybody. Appreciate it very much. I'll keep you posted this week. I might have Joe Shasky on Wednesday. Might only be about a half an hour show, though, so I got to figure out if I want to do something with a co-host and maybe then bring him on so we're not going off after only a half an hour. I've never had somebody on for just a half an hour, so I want to make it work. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Anything going on with the newest No Border Sports and No Border Sports 2?
Last Second Sports. No,
Last Second. Why did I?
Those are. No. You were.
Oh my God. I'm talking about Ryan. Sorry.
Yeah,
Ryan.
Ryan and those guys. You got your names mixed up today. You got like everybody. You got everything running through your brain.
Sharon's gonna freaking attack me on Instagram later. It's all right.
No, you're good. You're good. No, yeah. I mean, tomorrow I go on with Sunil per usual. Wednesday we'll probably do the call in, and we'll see what other things I drum up. But yeah, and then Last Second Sports 2, I'll come up with some NFL content. There's tons of NFL news, so it's whatever is intriguing to me is what I'll throw out for the week. So definitely,
man. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Everybody have a good night. I got to go take my brain pills, so maybe I'll start remembering people's name again. I'm almost 44, guys. So give me a break. All right, guys.
Yeah. What's the Joe Rogan pill for your brain? That's Alpha Brain. He's got to go take his Alpha Brain. He'll be fine.
Yeah, she says I look cute messing with those names. I appreciate it. I don't know what's going on with me, man. It's like when I get excited and I talk a lot, that's the Sicilian side of me coming out.
Yeah.
Brain just goes into malfunction mode. So,
yeah.
All right, guys. Talk to you later. Everybody have a good night.